And we're live again with the amazing Kath. And as you've all been probably listening in, hopefully listening in, you'll know that I am Dr. Kate Botcham-Brown and have been interviewing people that I feel are amazing, people that I have in my circle that I know, and Kath is one such person. And Kath and I know each other from Minimi Yoga, and as most of you will know, that Minimi Yoga has over 50 experts in their own right. They all are experts in children's mental and emotional well-being. They may be teachers, they may be psychiatrists, they may be in the medical profession, etc., etc. And they all have decided to train with Mini-Me and also use that in their tool belt and offer that to their clients and what have you. So most of them, well, you know, all of them have amazing backgrounds. And we're going to find out a little bit more about Kath today. So welcome, Kath. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Oh, lovely. Now, Kath is the master of relaxation. I mean, she's very well known. She does wonderful work with lots of children. We were just actually chatting about your work, Kath, and how you've still been able to reach children, even though you haven't been able to do face-to-face, you've still been able to do online. And that's the conversation that we just had, and I'd like to share with people here, is that there's probably parents at home and there's also teachers, and we as Mini-Me Yoga ambassadors and such, like, we know that online isn't really a substitute for face-to-face. Face-to-face is better. We know that. But online is better than nothing, you know, in terms of children's mental and emotional well-being. Can you just tell us, you know, a little bit about how you've been coping with the lockdown and how you've been working online with children and such like?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, it's just been, you know, I think for everyone's finding it hard at the moment, and lots of schools have, well, I guess most schools still have children in the kind of the vulnerable children and critical care worker children. And as you said, Kate, it's obviously nicer, it's easier, it is better to do face-to-face work, we know. And I think computers are taking over a little bit. Children are having to work at computers to do their home learning. So even though I've been doing stuff on Zoom, which is incredible, children are still being able to get that relaxation and the benefits that come with that. And I think the beauty of being able to run stuff over Zoom is we can reach so many more people. So when I tend to do my face-to-face classes working in schools, I tend to have about 10 to 12 children, sometimes whole classes, which is great. But on Zoom, you can kind of reach out to whole schools, which in my mind is just something I wouldn't normally be able to do. And especially not in, you know, these times, I guess it's hard enough to get 360 children into a school hall these days. They're not so big. So to be able to kind of stream into classrooms has been quite incredible, incredibly powerful. And just being able to empower more children to be mindful, to learn those tools and techniques, to be able to help themselves in those tricky moments, which is what we're all about, isn't it? So kind of supporting the mental health and well-being through these tricky times and beyond, because it's definitely not just now that children need the skills, perhaps more than they ever have before, because there's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety out there. But just being able to support the kids is, yeah, it's so key. It is so key.
So that's interesting, Kath. So, you know, from your perspective, and you are an expert in children's mental and emotional well-being, you know, that if you are a mum at home or dad, there's no need to worry about it. Oh, you know, my child going online again to sample some meditation or mindfulness. It's still doing the trick and it's still working.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also it's one of the things that I try and encourage if I'm doing kind of some private work is like, step away. You don't have to see what I'm doing. I feel that you know, we're at the point that we can talk people through pretty much anything. And that experience has come on in leaps and bounds from the amount of stuff I've done online. But I guess it's, you know, it's the way of the world now, isn't it? Everything's online, everything's on computers. And although we're trying to minimize screen, I know, you know, from a personal point of view, like with my children, trying to minimize the amount of screen time, and then suddenly they're on the computer all day long in school hours doing their schoolwork. But I think sometimes, you know, if we can do stuff where children can maybe just look away from the screen, close their eyes for a moment and just focus on not watching it. But I think we're still giving those benefits. It's one thing doing some mindfulness or some yoga, some breathing exercises, because they're not actually, it's not kind of, although they're focusing, they're concentrating, it's not as focused as kind of typing and concentrating on the schoolwork. So I think we have to see the benefits in being able to do something as opposed to do nothing, because we can't access that face-to-face, the face-to-face work at the moment. So I think it's meeting those needs, isn't it? It's definitely meeting the needs of the children and the adults as well.
Yeah, I agree, Kath. I agree. I think we have to, at this point, you know, we have to be able to actually have children have access to these tools and these methods, and it's something for them to look forward to, don't you think?
I think so, definitely. I've been doing a couple of free sessions, and I think children are starting to know that I'm doing them, and they're looking forward to those times. And I find the same in schools as well. I work in one school on a Friday afternoon, and the teachers say every Friday, like, they've been really looking forward to this, because it's something different. It's like something different to their usual schoolwork, to what they're usually doing on the computer or on the whiteboard in school, and just being able to take that time out. I think we don't realise how much children need this until they actually do it and they see the benefits themselves. And and a lot of what, I was saying to a group the other day that, having worked with a child when he was in year 4, he's now in year 8, and he still remembers what he did with me, what we did in the sessions, and using those techniques. So I think even if children seem disinterested and not wanting to participate, as long as they're not kind of reading a book or on a tablet, it's still going to be going in, isn't it, in their subconscious. And indeed, that was proven to me last night. I went on a socially distanced walk with a friend, and I've worked with her child before, and not necessarily got the engagement that I might like to have in a session. But then her daughter did a mindfulness video for school and taught something that I taught her about 2 or 3 years ago, which was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Because I think some children will push back from doing stuff like this for whatever reason, but it still goes in, and they've still got that information to call upon in those moments.
This is an excellent point, Kath. We must give children the exposure. And this is something that I have always said is, you know, even with the colouring mandalas, you know, even if you present the child with the colouring mandala every day and they do a 2-minute scribble, or not even a 2-second scribble, and then they, you know, discard it, it doesn't mean that they don't, you know, that they don't want to do it the next day or the next day or the next day. You have to keep presenting. You have to keep giving them exposure to it, giving them the choice to say yes or no. And then it's, you know, having that awareness. And this is key, I think, you know, to what you're saying, is that a lot of the time we think as parents or as teachers that the children aren't really getting it. And actually they're getting it. They're just choosing not to engage in this moment in time, but it's still, you know, sinking in, isn't it? So everything we do, we really have to be aware of, because, you know, that applies for not only the good stuff, but also, you know, what are we doing in the actions? You know, how are we dealing with things? And because they'll be taking it all in.
Absolutely. And I think it's the same for us, isn't it? We might not always feel like doing something at a certain time, and it might not be the right time then. But if we're giving the children the skills or the tools, then maybe if they, you know, offer it to them at a different time of day. And going back to the kind of the mindful colouring, oh my gosh, I'd never heard of it before I did my mini-me yoga training. And I can't tell you how powerful that is, something as simple as colouring. And I even introduced it into my yoga classes, much to the, I don't know what the right word is actually, but I'm teaching adult yoga. So I printed off mandala, not the mini-me mandalas, but found some other mandalas and presented the adults with a little clipboard with a mandala and some colouring pencils, and I kind of got one or two looks like, what's this? I don't think I colour because, colouring's not my thing, and that's absolutely fine, but I'll just leave it there just in case you decide to do it. And I can pretty much say that every single person that came to my class and didn't colour came back the following week and said, you never guess what? And I thought, oh no, what? Knowing full well they were going to say, I've been out and bought one of those mandala colouring books and some pencils, and I'm quite enjoying doing it, which is lovely, because if adults can do it with their little ones, it's an amazing brain break. And not everyone can be still. Not everyone wants to be still. Not everyone wants to sit and listen to meditation or relaxation stories. But that mindful colouring is still giving them that brain break if they do it the way that we've taught it through Mini Me. Just that stillness, that silence, just for a short time, and just building up. And I've actually gone into homes when I do my one-to-one work and had parents say, because I always try 3 minutes with children, and I've had parents say, like, there's absolutely no way my child will sit and colour for 3 minutes. It's like, that's fine. If they don't, it's not a problem. And then they've done it, and the parent's been like, my goodness, I cannot believe it. And it's like, well, I've offered you a tool now that you can carry on and do, and maybe extend that time. So that is a really powerful thing that you taught when I learned it through the Mini Me meditation. So I should say thank you for that.
Oh my goodness. Well, oh my goodness. It is just so amazing. I've had the same experience with that one technique. And it's so important, isn't it? Just the small techniques we offer, across the board, whether it's Mini Me, Relax Kids, whether it's, Kath as a relaxation coach, whatever it is, that parents can just take something, or a teacher can just take something and use it, or a child really finds that. But the thing is, if they don't know about it, they're never going to use it. And that's the whole point, it's like, I would say to all parents and teachers right now is, if there's free stuff online, just jump online, just get exposure, see what your child likes, see what you like, and utilize that.
Absolutely.
So now, you obviously, you work in many, many schools, and you work with many, many teachers and parents across the board. And you teach one-to-one classes, you do teach one-to-one sessions, you do group classes, etc., etc. And you also have, moved into other areas and arenas that are also supporting children. So, for example, you've done written journals and books and things like that. So can you tell us a little bit about that? But how did you go from doing these one-to-one sessions and group classes and things, and then, make this jump? How did that all come about?
So with the books, rewind to last year when COVID first came into our lives, and interesting times. In March last year, I was working in about 15 schools, and it was like every day I'd wake up and another school were like, well, we're not having external people in anymore, and like the numbers dwindled, and then obviously schools shut down and nobody quite knew what was happening. So I had no work for quite a long time, and homeschooling my own children as well. And I think, like everyone, going through that absolute roller coaster of emotions, one day thinking I'm ready to take on the world, excuse me, the next day thinking, gosh, I don't even want to get up. I just don't, it's that kind of that out of control feeling. And I thought, I've got to do something, because I'm just, I was just finding it really quite hard. So I thought, I know, I'll write a book. I've never written a book before. Had no idea what I was going to do with it, but I thought, what can I write about? What do I know about? So thinking, I can write about yoga and mindfulness and relaxation. So I kind of had this idea in my head. I have 2 children. I have a Jasmine, who was 10 at the time, and Phoebe, who is 7. So Yasmin Yogi and Phoebe B was created because Jasmine was point blank after secondary school, didn't want to be associated with a book, let alone a book that her mother wrote. So we agreed that Yasmin was quite a nice little halfway house. So Yasmin Yogi and Phoebe B. Phoebe was happy to be a little bee. was created, and I had so much fun doing it. Not sure where I was going to go with it, but having done that first one just made me want to keep going. So I've written 2 Yasmin Yogi VBB books. I've designed a Yasmin Yogi VBB colouring book, which is all very new, and that's kind of doing little yoga flows for children to colour in, because again, just bringing a bit more yoga into their lives. I've done a positive meditation book for children, and loads of journals, so a yoga journal, diaries for kids, colouring books for kids, adult colouring books, a positive word colouring book. And so I've just feel like I've found a creative side by having that mental headspace where I haven't been doing my usual work, but just wanting to kind of pursue other things as well. So it's been like quite addictive designing books and kind of getting them out there, which has been amazing. So
amazing. So if you are at home and other people are thinking, oh, I'd like to write a book, or I'd like to design a book. I mean, is it an easy process? Is it, because you've written 2 now? Is it an easy process? I mean, how did you go about getting it out there and what have you? What was the process?
It took me quite a long time to learn the whole process. And it was easier by the time I got my head around lots of stuff. It was easier than I thought it was going to be. But there's a lot out there I didn't know. I didn't know that you couldn't just use any old fonts. You can't just pick a font and then just put it in your book and publish it. I had no idea. So I'm so glad I did a lot of research. So I've kind of bought my own font, which I thought was safer. And it's just, tiny little things like some fonts, even when you buy them, you can only use them once, and you can only use them in print and not digitally. So it's kind of, there's a bit of a legal process that you have to think about, and you can't use any old picture that you see, even on the if something's royalty free, for example, that doesn't mean that you can use it commercially. So it was a whole new world I've discovered out there. But it was once I'd learnt it all, which took quite a long time. I think I had the book idea towards the end of March, and my first book was published towards the end of June. So I just wanted to be sure that everything I did was totally, obviously, above board, and I was able to do that. But it was good, and it's good fun. I think I found, as I said, that creative side that I don't think I've nurtured at all because I've been so busy. So a positive, to be fair, of COVID was just being able to do something different and have that headspace and that time when I could have gone the other way quite easily, I think, and kind of sunk into thinking, oh, don't want to do anything. I can't be bothered to do stuff. So I feel quite grateful that I had that kind of that drive to go on and do something else.
Now, do you think that was because of your training in mindfulness, meditation, mental health? Do you feel that swayed you onto that way, or do you how would you explain
that? I mean, I live it now. I kind of totally live this. I first started practicing yoga in my early 20s, and yoga's always been the thing I've gone back to time and time again. I might not have practiced it religiously every week since I was in my 20s, but yoga's always been the thing that I've gone back to, which is, and I think it's just that. And I was doing loads more meditation. I think a lot of it was that time doing loads more meditation and kind of setting my alarm clock really early to come and do a meditation. But I think, totally. If I didn't have all this in my life, like the breathing exercises, I've had moments where I've actually felt quite, I haven't been an anxious person, a panicky person, but I think COVID has certainly impacted on me. So using all of the technique, it's just, I feel very lucky to have learned all that I've learned it's only been in the last 6 or 7 years that I've kind of got into this a lot more, but it's absolutely helped, absolutely. And that's why it's nice to be able to do free stuff, to be able to support other people through this, because it's hard, it's hard for everybody. Everyone's finding it a struggle. So it's good to give out stuff.
And so, you have this background, and, you've fallen back. It's something that you can fall back onto. How do your children react to you having these, having this mindset and what have you? Do they naturally, perhaps do their breathing or naturally do these things because they see mummy doing them, like quietly, or, do you notice that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's rubbed off on my, probably not as much as I'd like it to be honest. But I just find, for me, even since starting off when I did my relaxed kids training, my Jasmine, who is now 11, was about 3 or 4 at the time. And I just remember before I got into it, she was just she was like a mini me. I'd always rush around. I was working in London, so commuting every day. And then Jasmine started to get like, come on, mummy, we're late, we need to go. It's always rushing. And I just thought, it's not sustainable. This is not sustainable for a 3-year-old just to keep feeling like she's busy and she's late and this and that. So I thought something's got to give. And I was lucky enough to then go on and do like training with Mini Me, doing my relaxed kids training, and then just using those tools and techniques to get them through. So we've done the positive affirmations, where I've done a little bit of kind of law of attraction stuff with Jasmine to get, for her to like live her dream life. Phoebe is amazing at helping me with my, she'll do, if I say give her a yoga position to do, she knows exactly what to do. And she's quite good actually. I don't know if you're familiar with, you'll be familiar with it, or whether you've practiced Kundalini yoga before, but there's the Adi Shakti mantra, and it was quite funny because she absolutely loves Adi Shakti. And the other day, I think it was over the weekend, she said, "Oh, mummy, do you know what my favourite songs are?" And I said, like, no. She said, "My favourite songs are Dance Monkey and Adi Shakti." I just thought that was just so lovely. But she'll often ask to have the Adi Shakti mantra, and she knows the words. She's kind of knows some of the actions, but it's just lovely to have that. So Phoebe's probably a bit more into it than maybe Jasmine is, but with Jasmine, using the breathing exercises if she finds it hard to go to sleep, the positive mindset, the kind of affirmations and all those things that we encourage have worked amazingly. So yeah, they kind of, but I think it's anything, isn't it? Children will mimic what their kind of their nearest and dearest teachers do, because you see if I do get stressed, sometimes I can see that in my children, whereas if I'm calm and relaxed, and I think for us, it's quite normal to see mummy relaxing, because I can get quite lazy sometimes, but I think I want them to see me chilling out, so they know that you don't need all of this technology. You don't need to be on a computer all the time. So they often see me reading a book, so they will read a book rather than kind of looking at the computer and stuff. So definitely trying to model those behaviours has been absolutely key.
That is such an amazing key that you've given everybody there, and something I know that we feel passionately about, as Mini Me yoga practitioners, is that if you are the parent, the guardian, the grandparent, the teacher, or whoever it is, it's absolutely vital that you model the behavior that you want the children to adopt, because that old saying, don't do as I do as I say, doesn't wash, it doesn't work. And that's what our programs are all about. And I know that's what a lot of the programs, out there now are about, is like, okay, what can we do as adults, and we do it alongside. And I love that you've written the books as well, because that's something that the children can read themselves, and then they can take that in. Again, it's self-learning, it's self-study for the children, something for them to actually engage in. So it's setting up that whole that whole arena for them, and the journaling, and then the colouring, and all of these different techniques. And you don't have to be sitting there umming all the time. Of course, if you want to, let's do it.
Absolutely.
There's colouring, there's journaling, there's reading, there's walking, there's all these types of things that children can engage in, which are actually fantastic for one's mental health. And as we know, this goes for the adults as well.
100%. And I think we want to make it then, make it normal for children to meditate. The Dalai Lama says, kind of, if every 8-year-old meditated, like world peace would be within kind of a couple of, I can't remember what it is, decades, one generation of, But I think the amount of, when I've done kind of my like community classes, and we have time to do a little activity, and I might get the children to make a worry jar or something, so they write their worries in, and I've lost count of the amount of times I've said to kind of the adults, if only we had this when we were kids, because that could potentially be the way we kind of handle our worries. Have a worry, write it down, and know that you've got it, and then go through your worries every now and then, and just like rip to shreds the worry when it's gone. But I think teaching children these strategies from a young age, so it does become their normal, is kind of, I think it's vital for mental health and well-being going forwards. It really is. So anything we can do, and anything we can do to encourage children just to have that stillness every now and then, to practice a breathing exercise, to know that it's our breath we want to come back to with any emotion that we're going through, and that it's an absolutely safe, so even if we're, I don't know, overexcited, we can practice our breathing. It's not going to hurt us. If we're anxious, come back to the breath. If we're angry, come back to the breath. It really is. And I think the beauty of everything that we do is it's not rocket science. It's so simple. It's easy to learn, and we don't need to have a whole toolkit. It's brilliant if we've got access to lots of different things, but one breathing exercise can get us through pretty much anything. But it's nice, obviously, to have that variety, because not all children are the same, as we know, and everyone will have different ways of learning. So just giving them access to different tools and techniques, different methods, and for them to choose what works for them, really, I think, it's just key.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful, a wonderful point. It can be as simple as just taking some deep breaths, and you don't overcomplicate it. It's fine. If you've got the toolkit and you want to reel it all out, and fantastic.
Yeah.
By the same token, if you're at home and you've got 4 other kids running around and you don't know what to do, let's just make it simple. Breathe and just sit still for a few moments, and it's just so powerful.
Absolutely. And I think it's nice, to encourage children to have their own little their own little routine that they like to do. And it doesn't need, when we teach, we might teach an hour, we might teach 40 minutes. It doesn't have to be that long, does it? Kind of just 2 minutes here and there, 5 minutes here and there, just making it regular, kind of trying to come back to it as often. And one thing I'll always challenge any group of children I work with, try and practice your breathing just 3 minutes a day, and then make it fun. Do you know how many minutes there are in a week? And if we did 3 minutes a day, how many minutes a week would we be practicing our breathing? And they kind of love to do a little bit of maths in my classes as well, and work out how many minutes in a week and stuff. So, but I think it's, we don't have to spend long. And the same with adults, as long as we've got, really, if we can commit to showing up and maybe sitting in stillness for 5 minutes a day, is kind of better than not doing it at all, I think. So
I agree. Now, we're coming to the end of the time. Can you let us know how people can contact you? Because I know that you offer online, stuff, and also where can they get your book and journal? And also, I know that you have, a little close Facebook group, for that you do free things on and what have you. So can we put those details in the comment box?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, shall I go in after? Because this will be on the, so I'll pop in the details of where people can get hold of me. And I'd love it, if people want to come for some free relaxation and a little bit of yoga, to jump onto my page. And I'll share, where my books are, and if people want to message me, they're welcome to ping me a message as well. So
wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here with us, and good luck with the books and all sorts. I know they're going to, they are already a huge success, and an even bigger success. And lucky children that have you, because I know you're still out there and you're still teaching online. So thank goodness that these schools are still supporting children in this way. It's fantastic. They're doing an amazing job, and those schools that are, you know, still plugging away at having these sessions, fantastic. So pleased.
Well, thank you for asking me along, Kate. I appreciate it. It's been lovely to have a chat.
Oh, thank you. And thanks, everyone. I'm going to say goodbye, and Kath and I will pop the details in so you have those.